There is a kind of friendship that can only happen when two people are working toward something together. Not the friendship of proximity or shared history or compatible personalities, but the friendship that forms in the middle of making something, in the hours of effort and failure and small breakthrough, when you come to know another person through the particular intimacy of shared work. That kind of friendship has a quality that is difficult to replace once it's gone. Gene Kelly spent his professional life working alongside people in the most literal sense of the word. Dance, especially the kind he specialized in, athletic, precise, physically demanding, and emotionally vivid, requires a quality of partnership that most professions never ask for. You cannot fake presence in dance. You cannot perform the appearance of being in sync with another person. Either the movement is shared, genuinely, in the body, in the moment, or it is two people doing separate things in proximity. The difference is completely visible. And Gene Kelly spent his career in pursuit of the real thing. He spoke often in interviews across his long career about the nature of creative partnership, about what it meant to work so closely with another person that you developed a shared language, a shared rhythm, a shorthand understanding of what the other person was going to do before they did it. He had experienced this in extraordinary form in his partnership with Frank Sinatra, with whom he made two beloved films in the late 1940s, and with Stanley Donen, his longtime directing partner, with whom he created some of the most celebrated musical sequences in Hollywood history. These partnerships were not just professional arrangements. They were friendships that had been built in the middle of hard work, and that carried the particular depth that comes from having made something together that neither could have made alone. What Gene Kelly talked about, in his reflective moments, was what it felt like when those partnerships ended. Not in any dramatic sense, most of them didn't end badly. Life moved, and careers moved, and the particular circumstances that had put two people in the same room at the same time for the same purpose shifted. And what had been daily became occasional, and what had been close became more distant. Not through any falling out, but through the ordinary movement of different lives. The partnership that had produced something real was still real. The work was there, and so was the friendship in its remaining form. But the daily texture of it was gone, and that texture, the particular quality of being in the room every day with someone who knew what you were trying to do, because they were trying to do it with you, was something he found himself missing in a way that was hard to articulate. He talked, in one interview that stays in the memory of people who saw it, about the experience of watching a sequence he and a particular collaborator had made together years after the making. And what he said was interesting. He said he could remember not just the sequence itself, but the process of making it, the specific afternoon when a particular problem was solved, the moment when something clicked that had not been clicking, the feeling in the room when they both knew they had found what they were looking for. And that what the watching brought back was not just the memory of the work, it was the memory of being that known, of being in a room with someone who understood exactly what you were trying to do, and who cared about it as much as you did, and who brought something to the making that you couldn't have brought alone. He said that was one of the things he missed most as the years passed. The feeling of being that known, of being in the room with someone who gets it. Not just what you're doing, but what you're for. Who sees what you're trying to make and wants to help you make it, not for their own reasons, but because they believe in the same thing. Maybe you've had something like that. Maybe there has been a time in your own life when you worked alongside someone in that way, not necessarily in a dance studio or on a film set, but in whatever form your own creative or professional or personal work has taken. A colleague who became a collaborator. A friend who became a partner in something that mattered. A person you made something with. A project, a business, a household, a community, a garden, a life. Who understood what you were trying to do because they were trying to do it with you. And maybe that person is no longer in your daily life in the same way. Not because of any falling out, just because life moved, as it does. Those relationships are worth honoring, even in their more distant form. Worth reaching across the distance occasionally to say, I remember what we made, and I remember who you were to me when we were making it. And that memory is still alive and still matters. Gene Kelly understood partnership as a form of generosity. To truly collaborate, to bring your full self to a shared work and to genuinely receive what the other person is bringing, requires a particular kind of openness that not everyone maintains as they become more established in their own way of doing things. As we become more experienced, we often become more certain, more settled in our approaches, more confident in our own instincts, less automatically open to having our direction changed by what someone else offers. That confidence is valuable, but it can also close down the kind of genuine collaboration that Gene Kelly was describing. The kind where you don't know, when you begin, exactly what you'll make, because you're going to find it together, not arrive at it separately. He remained, throughout his long career, someone who was genuinely curious about what his partners would bring. People who worked with him late in his career said the same thing about him that people said early, that he made you feel like your contribution actually mattered, that he was listening, that what you brought changed what was made. That kind of genuine reception, the willingness to be changed by what someone else offers, is the core of real collaboration. And it is also, in a sense, the core of real friendship. To be genuinely received, to feel that what you bring actually lands and changes something and matters to the person receiving it, is one of the most valuable things a friendship can offer. And it is rarer than it should be. Most of our conversations run on a kind of parallel track, where both people are listening enough to respond, but not fully enough to be changed. The friendship Gene Kelly was describing, the one forged in genuine collaboration, in the daily business of making something together, had a different quality. It required full listening, and it produced full knowing. Maybe there is someone in your life right now, or reachable right now, with whom that kind of genuine reception is possible. Someone who listens fully. Someone who makes you feel, in the presence of what you bring, that it actually matters. Someone you have made something with, or could. Not necessarily a professional project. Just a shared effort, a shared meal, a shared walk, a shared conversation where both of you arrive somewhere neither of you would have arrived alone. That is the kind of friendship Gene Kelly was describing. And it is available in ordinary life, in whatever form your own circumstances make possible. What does it take to make that kind of friendship? Gene Kelly would probably say, it takes showing up and bringing yourself and being genuinely curious about what the other person brings. It takes the willingness to make something together without knowing in advance exactly how it will go. It takes openness, the specific, practiced, deliberate kind that doesn't come automatically, but that can be cultivated. And it takes time. The kind of knowing he was describing, the shorthand, the shared language, the ability to anticipate what the other person is going to do, takes time to build. There are no shortcuts. But the building is worth it. Gene Kelly spent a long career in the company of remarkable people, and what he said he valued most about those partnerships was not the professional achievement. It was the daily reality of working alongside someone who knew him, who had seen him trying and failing and finding the way through, who had made something real with him. That knowing is the real gift. And it is available to any of us who are willing to show up fully and to let someone else show up fully alongside us in whatever work the days bring. So take a slow breath and think of the person or the persons who have known you in that particular way. And maybe, this week, reach across whatever distance has accumulated and let them know you still remember, still carry what you made together, still value the knowing. That is the friendship Gene Kelly never stopped thinking about, and it may be one you can tend a little more deliberately than you have. Because here is what Gene Kelly understood about the friendships built in shared work. They don't end when the work ends. They change form. They become something quieter, less daily, less immediate. But the foundation remains. The knowing remains. And that foundation, if you return to it occasionally, with a call, a letter, a meal, a conversation that goes somewhere real, is more solid than most things you will find. It was built in the hardest conditions, in the middle of making something that mattered, in the hours when who you actually are became visible because the work required it. That is a strong foundation. It deserves to be returned to.